Hey everybody, this is Mark Richards, the owner of Wasatch Recovery and a proud sponsor of Todd Sylvester's BeliefCast. We are excited to have you join us as we discuss Wasatch Recovery's unique treatment programs for overcoming addictions and techniques for developing a healthier lifestyle. We call this the Wasatch Way. Wasatch Recovery's goal is to instill hope, teach resilience, and help you achieve recovery. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Wasatch Way. I am joined with some amazing people right now, and I'm going to go around the room. We got Christian Smith.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. We got Corey Markisich.
Hello.
Mark Richards, and Ryan Decker, who goes by Decker. Wasatch Way is something we've done in the past a lot. It's been very effective. We've had a lot of good feedback, and I'm grateful to have these guys. I'm grateful to rub shoulders with you guys. And we're going to talk about something that's kind of, hard to talk about maybe sometimes with people. We're going to talk about religion versus spirituality. We get this a lot in treatment where people come in and they almost want to avoid us if we're religious, or, people always say they're spiritual too. And it's funny, I'll ask, so how much time do you spend on your spirituality? And they usually say, well, nothing. So they just say that they are. So it's just interesting, the takes that we get from our clients that come in here. You guys who are on the, front lines trying to get people in here, you probably hear, the mindsets of people who don't want to have any of that when they come into treatment, or that's what they're looking for. So here we are today. We're going to talk about that. And so, guys, what do you guys think? Let's get talking.
Get the mic, Decker. One of the things, Decker and I take the calls more than most. Is that fair?
Sounds like you're trying to toot your own horn.
No, I shouldn't have said that, but he can edit that. But we take calls a lot. And oftentimes, at least, Decker, for me, it's not uncommon for the question to come out quickly, are you guys faith-based? And typically when that question is asked, I would wager 8 to 9 out of 10 times it's someone not wanting to be associated with a faith-based program. You have that, Decker?
Oh, yeah. And I think it's pretty common, too, like when people kind of get to that spot that they need to come to treatment, I think they've kind of lost sight of some of, their spirituality or their religion or whatever it is, because you kind of get to that dark place when, some might say that that's when you need it the most, right?
Okay, this all started, the topic kind of was thrown out yesterday. And as I pondered it through the day yesterday and the night, I'm reminded of a gal that we all know who's known throughout the country in our industry and resides here, Laura McBride. And some years ago, Laura and I were talking about the role of faith in treatment. And I notice I used the word treatment. And she quickly shut me down and said, at that time I was affiliated with a faith-based program that's local. And she quickly shut me down and said, there is not such a thing as faith-based treatment. And so we started talking, and here's what I came from that. I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts. When she said the word treatment, I didn't really hear it, because I do think there's a place for the road to being recovered in utilizing the what do they call it in the research, community morale type of deal, which would include faith. But what I think we do in treatment is religion is not, faith is not in treatment. It's a great way for many people to maintain a recovery on the road to being recovered. What do we think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that you have to figure out, well, what is spirituality and what's religion? Because they are different. Mm-hmm. They are, in the assessments that we do, there's a section that comes to that, and the first question is, are you religious? Or it says, are you affiliated with any religion? Yeah. 90% of the time when I ask that question, they say no, and it's an immediate no, like it's a no, and I just say okay. And then the very next question is, do you consider yourself spiritual? And 90% of the time they say yes. and it's more of a, I even sometimes get a smile, or they get emotional, or there's just a difference. So I think, I mean, I'm curious to even see what you guys think. Like, what's the difference? Because I know what I think, but I don't know. What do you think? Different.
I think, first of all, just going to the way Wasatch does treatment, we're somewhat of a holistic program. And so we're often talking about our mind, our body, and our spirit. So if we're not congruent with our mind and our body and our spirit, if we're missing one of those pieces of that triangle, if you want to call it that, we're missing out on something. And so, yeah, if we go to the concept of religion versus the concept of spirituality, I think, like Decker said, a lot of people are in a dark space when they first come into treatment. And if you just take the next step of your two questions, Corey, do you believe in God? Might be the next question. And a lot of them at this point go, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Or, yeah, I believe in God, but it might not be your God, or it might be. So there's so many different ways to view, I think, going towards the spirituality piece,
I agree.
When it comes to God and what they believe. But obviously religion is organized, it's structured, it's something that is directed towards a specific purpose for that particular religion, if you want to call it that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's exactly how I view it, because I grew up, a specific religion. I grew up LDS, and that was kind of how my view of religion was kind of molded. As I got older and learned of other religions, actually my family, my dad was a convert to the LDS faith, and so I had a lot of Catholic kind of education as a kid, and so I knew there was other things, other organizations out there, but it was interesting to me that they all kind of led to God and had their own little kind of flavors on it. But I think I was lucky, growing up, that I didn't know it at the time, but I was taught what spirituality was. And so later in life, looking at things and learning things, it helped, because religion is an organized thing. And I don't think, I'm not here to say one's better than the other. One, fits other people, but spirituality fits them all.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I hear a lot too, like clients that come through here, they're, I'm not religious at all, but I'm spiritual. What I find a lot is, when I ask them, how much time do you spend, on your spirituality aspect of what you believe, and typically it's like not much. And I think it's almost their way to say, I'm going to avoid religion because they don't like the structure, they don't like and structure saved my life. To be honest, and you guys are probably in that same boat. If it wasn't for the structure of religion when I was getting clean from my addictions, I'd be dead. And so I'm grateful for that structure. And I think as you grow through this, and I think it's a growth, that spirituality is also a big part of it. Like you said, Corey, I think it's when my spirit or soul or light connects with yours. When I can connect with you, Corey, and we've done this, and I've done this with everyone in this room, but when we connect one-on-one, that to me is what spirituality feels like. And I think you get that in religion, but you get it even outside of religion, if you will. And I think connecting in that way is when I can say, this is what it feels like to be spiritual. We had a client in House 1, this was about a year ago, and he shared this in group, and I put it to my memory because I was so profound. And this kind of summed it up for me. He said, I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my God eluded me. I tried to find my brother, I found all three. And I think when we find each other, or in other words, many of you in this room have helped me in my dark times, in Corey recently even. That's when I found all three, if you will, in those moments that we had together, right? And that's the way I look at spirituality, is when I'm connecting on that kind of a level, right? Whether I'm in a structured religion or if I'm just sitting here talking to you on the couch. I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
My thoughts are when we get clients come in here, the vast majority of them are spiritually bankrupt, which makes sense to your point, Corey, that, I don't want anything to do with the religion. And I think a large part of that is because, at least in the culture that we live in, and those that are listening, all 5 of us here are active members of the predominant religion. And I mean active. Yet most of us in this room, if not all of us, have been to that place where we were spiritually bankrupt, and partially because we confused religion and spirituality. And that's something Corey talked about a little bit. We've confused that to think those are the same thing. And I think we've all learned, and I would advocate that they're not. They're totally different. The spirituality that I really long for and I need, without offending anyone, Dad, I don't find it in a church building. In fact, sometimes I go to that church building and find resentment.
Oh, you're in trouble. You're in deep trouble now.
Yeah, Dad's going to get me for this. What do you think, Decker?
Yeah, I'm not going to touch on that because I don't want my mom to hate me either. In my experience, coming in through Wasatch 8.5 years ago, right, I was religious, right, but always striving for perfection that wasn't attainable, right? And what's crazy is when you get to that point, of using drugs or alcohol, right, you got this fog where I think it's a little bit harder to give and receive love and, emotions and stuff like that. And, when I was in treatment, that's when it was heavy, right? And I was hitting my knees more than ever, and then I had this new clarity on what spirituality is and love.
You guys you're not here in the room. I've worked here for over 2 years, and I can count on one hand how many times I've seen Ryan Decker tear up and become vulnerable. I know he is. I know that's his heart, but I say that so that those listening can understand what he just said, the conviction he has to it.
I don't think you need to out him.
And to me, this is the spirituality that we're referring to. I just felt it when Decker just said what he said and the way he said it, and to see his emotion in it. I just felt, if you will, we just had a God experience. I'm just going to be honest, and people might go, what? That's what it's about. And we're not in church now. We're just in this teeny little office, and we just had this experience thanks to Ryan and being vulnerable. And but that to me is the essence of spirituality.
There's you ever heard, is it Miller? Lisa Miller. There's a woman named Lisa Miller, and she's been on several podcasts. She's written a book called The Awakened Mind, or something like that. You heard of it? Yeah. So she's this woman, this professor that has done all this research on spirituality, and it was kind of by accident. Like, she was a psychologist, if I remember right, and she was trying to do some research on depression, and it spilled into, is that right? Was it Lisa Miller?
She's the best-selling author of The Spiritual Child and The Awakening Brain.
The Awakened Brain. That's what it was called. So her first initial thing was depression. It was like, I got to figure out how depression works. And I think, if I remember right, even she had a little taste of it in her life. And it led her down this path of scientific research. Okay. This was like MRIs and all this like stuff that you can see on a computer. And she fell into spirituality. And it even made her like, oh my heck, I can't deny this. And they could see brains where people that had spirituality, and we're not talking religion. She does a very good job in her stuff where she's like, hey, religion can be part of it, but spirituality can be a walk in the woods. It can be what we have just now. It can be going to church. It can be whatever it is. But they literally can see, and you can look this up because I didn't believe it either until I saw it myself. But the pieces of the brain that where we reason and where we feel and different things in depression, it kind of atrophies. So it's weaker. It's not there. And people that say I have spirituality and I practice spirituality, it's strong. And I can't remember the numbers, I'll have to look it up, but it's this huge astronomical rate that if you have spirituality, depression, I'm not saying that it cures it, but it helps it. It definitely helps it.
I think talking about what Decker said was very important. To be vulnerable is to feel that spirituality. If you're not vulnerable, it's hard to feel that spirituality that we're talking about. And it can be anywhere at any time, just like we felt here. I know that all of us have our own passions, and everybody out there has a passion for something. So I look around this room and, you know, Decker, being the hunter that he is, gets up on the mountain and the sun comes up, and there's something spiritual about that. And all of a sudden you see this huge elk, and now you're going, okay, this is what it's all about. And you feel like you're almost in heaven, in a sense, if you want to call it that. And, you know, yeah, I mean, we're standing on a tee box at Pebble Beach, you know, if you're a golfer, and you look at that first tee and you feel the little mist coming off of the ocean, and you're sitting there going, okay, this is spiritual. This is amazing right now. And I had the opportunity to do family night the other night, and just talking about gratitude. Gratitude is humility, is vulnerability. And when you see that and you go, this is spiritual, you're feeling that gratitude of where you are in that moment. And I think that's so important for people to remember, is just, yeah, you can have that spirituality, and it doesn't matter where or when or how. And when you feel it, you have to be vulnerable enough to recognize it. And that's so important, to recognize that. And I think that's where, going into your statement about, is religion or spirituality treatment? If you don't recognize it, you're never going to grow from it. So I want to contradict Laura a little bit, and I love Laura, but there's something to say about treatment. Yes, it's not therapy upstairs with our therapists, but there's something to say, I recognize this, and I acknowledge this, and I'm grateful for this, and bam, there's something that does to heal you. And so I do think it can be a part of treatment in our industry.
I think we might be battling over semantics here.
Sure.
Because I think what she was, at least I interpret what she was saying, was treatment is on the clinical side.
Sure.
That faith is really not treatment, but it is clearly in the process of finding recovery.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone that's done the 12 steps.
Yeah.
And I was just going to go there too, is,
Right.
you know, another question we get asked really quick is, are you a 12-step facility? And so many people want to associate the 12-step program with religion, I believe.
Yeah.
And in a way, it is its own religion.
Yeah.
It's very structured. You're doing it their way, whatever that way is. You know, it's 12 specific steps. And we've found that it's been around for 50 or 60 years. Something's working with it.
Yeah, and this is a great conversation. I want to go back, Christian, when you were at the darkest moment of your life, someone called you up, if I remember, and said they loved you.
Yes.
Is that, I got that right?
Yes.
And that word, I love you, did something to you.
Yeah.
And we did this before where we talked about how God is love, and right? Remember that? And I'm telling you, that one was amazing. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is about the treatment side, is when someone feels love, like what you said, you know, how those parts of the brain atrophy, but when you start feeling this connection and this love and this, it starts to expand.
Gross.
I mean, that's healing. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you believe. How many times have we seen people here? I just felt loved here. And that love is the biggest thing that helped me in my recovery. It's why I'm where I'm at today. And we can pin it to anything, but I think God is love. It not, you know, and religion tries to perpetuate that love through that, you know. And so there's a beautiful quote by Ganilian Norris that goes like this: within each of us there is a silence as vast as the universe, and when we experience that silence, we remember who we are. And in that moment, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Christian, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. When he said, "I love you," it was almost like a flash of you remembered who you were. It might have been a split second. It might have been 10 minutes. It might whatever, but it did something to you. Do you mind sharing just a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah, that was the final catalytic event that changed my life. There were probably 5, maybe 6 catalytic events. That was the final one. And I can tell you exactly what day it was. It was February 4th, 2010, when I just had finishing up a bender, the last bender, a relapse that lasted 10 days after 83 days of residential treatment. And there's no more dope. There's no more way to get dope. And I check voicemail, it's full. And my friend now, then counselor, crazy Jason Webb, left a lot of messages the beginning of the week. It's, "I'm worried, call me." Crescendo to the middle of the week of, "This is ridiculous, call me." But that last message that you alluded to, Todd, I'll forever be imprinted in my brain, went like this: "Christian, it's Jason. Have I told you I love you lately?" That was the entirety of the message. And now I've never put it together, Todd, like you just said. I just knew at the moment when I heard that message, I didn't feel judged. And there was a connection there. And it gave me enough courage to pick up the phone and say, "I'm not in a good place." So I think what you said makes perfect sense. That here I am, spiritually bankrupt, longing for connection / love. And it came to me in a brief moment in the form of a very, very short voicemail. I think something else you said, Corey and Mark, I do believe most of our clients come in spiritually bankrupt. And to mark your point of treatment and spirituality, I think I'm messing with words, and no offense to Laura or anything.
I love Laura. I love to just throw out the opposite.
She probably wouldn't listen to this, but now it's going to find her.
Yeah, I hope it finds you, Laura.
Yeah, never listen to one.
Now she's going to find this one.
But it makes sense. The spiritual part is a natural progression in the treatment. When we have somebody come in spiritually bankrupt, maybe even agnostic, atheist, or at least angry at God, and then we the Wasatch Way is a frickin' wonderful way of love. We are client-centered. We exude as much love. No treatment program in this country exudes more love than Wasatch Recovery. And so clients feel that, and that is the road to finding spirituality. And then if somebody wants to, in my opinion, wants to take, okay, I got spirituality, and then move over and combine their spirituality with attending a building, God bless them. If that's what many of us do. I do that. I won't speak for anybody, but I do that now.
Well, and I think, like what Mark was just saying, I think some of them find that in the 12 steps or AA/AA, right? Because it is like a religion. It's very organized. It's got, parameter. I mean, but it is based around God, and I do know that's where some people get hung up with it. But even in the big book, there's a chapter for the agnostic. Right? And so, but it is. I know that 12 steps with me, like when I was first learning, that was kind of what I was exposed to, and it helped me. And I think probably because I had a background in religion, and it helped me like, oh, okay, so I can, there is hope, right? I mean, I think that spirituality, AA, religion, whatever you want to do, like, it gives you hope.
Well, I love that you guys both just said, because this is the Wasatch Way. When Jeff and I were starting this program, we knew nothing. We knew nothing of the industry. We knew nothing. But we're kind of lovable guys. And when we started, we very specifically said, what do these people need? And all we came up with was hope and love, and we'll be successful. And because we knew that most of these people at this point have lost hope, and then a lot of them have burned every bridge in their life, and they need some love. They need a third party to continue to love them, because it's difficult at this point. with families and friends and all these things. So it's great that you two just said that, because that's exactly what we started this program about, is just hope and love. And we put that right in our, mission statement. And that was it. That's all this program is based on. Hope and love.
When I answer that question, when I was telling you about the two questions with the assessment, and the first is religion, no. Second is spirituality, and they're like, oh, heck yeah. How I always follow it up is, okay, great, because that means you have some hope. Yeah. And if I don't care what you believe in, I don't care if it's the tree is your spirituality right now, it gives you some hope. Because if you believe in something bigger than you, then you have hope. Otherwise, it's a very scary world to be in.
Well, you have to believe in something greater than yourself, whatever higher power it is, right? We always say, okay, the doorknob, whatever, but you have to, because half of us in this room shouldn't even be here.
Nope.
Right? Like, clearly there's something greater that's kind of helping us kind of navigate through these hard times, because there is a lot of people who don't make it. We are the lucky ones, and I know it's family and friends battling to try to get you to get help when you can't see you actually need it is a ton, but clearly it's not by chance that we've made it this far.
I agree. I mean, every person in this room, I think most people out in the world can say there's been times in my life where I shouldn't be here, and we're still here. Yeah. And so I often say that to my addicts, they shouldn't be here. Yeah. Most of them at this point, and overdoses and whatever, seizures and you name it, and they shouldn't be here. Yeah. So I think that goes to the next point of spirituality, and that is purpose. Yeah. It creates a purpose. Yeah. So we got to find purpose in this world, and if we don't have any purpose, we float, and it takes away our ambition, and it takes away our want to be better. Yeah. If we have zero purpose, and that's what I love about spirituality. Yeah, is it creates the purpose.
Well, and can I add to that? And sorry, I'm throwing out all these quotes.
I like it.
But there's a quote.
Googling them as he's just sitting here.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
No, you
bastard.
Gotta edit that.
There's a quote by Pablo Picasso that says, "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." And honestly, you think about, you just said it, Decker, that most of us, if not all of us in this room, should not be here. And it was because someone gave away their gift to us, if you will. Someone left a voicemail. I know there's been people in your lives, Corey, that saved your life. Same with you, Mark, the stuff that you've been through. Decker, oh my goodness. You're the one guy in this room that's actually been through Wasatch. And you have experienced what Mark said, the love and the hope firsthand. And I'll tell you, that to me is the gift that people are giving away. And I'll be honest with you, this is a good reminder for me today, because I've been, on August 5th, which is coming up, I'll be 34 years clean.
Congratulations.
Which is amazing. But I tend to forget that the gratitude of I shouldn't be here, and that God and structure and spirituality, all of that love saved my life, and I'm grateful for that. So it's a great reminder. And I look at Decker here, and to see that where he was 7 years ago, 7.5 years, is it 8 now? Wow, 8 years clean, right? Decker. Christian, you've been clean how long now? 14?
Yeah.
And Corey?
24 hours.
Oh, way to go, Corey.
Wow, well, we're going to do a new episode here.
18 years.
18 years, and think about that in this room, how cool that is that now we're giving away the things that we've learned to these people who come in usually at day one with no hope and no love and no... Anyway, I just want to say how grateful I am for all this.
Thank you, Todd. I have a question on that. Makes me think. And I'm just going to ask you guys. So when the world's falling apart and everything was crappy, we've all been there. What did you guys do? I just want to know. Like, when everything was falling apart, what happened? Who'd you reach out to? What happened?
Hold on. Are you asking, when you say falling apart, what do you mean?
Like when you had no hope. Yeah.
That's the lowest point.
Not necessarily just addiction. I'm just saying life. Like when you had no hope. Yeah, lowest point. What were you doing? I'm not saying what got you there. I'm saying what were you doing to change?
I'll go.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just real quick. For me, it was honestly on my knees praying and asking for help. And I honestly, for those who don't know my story, I'm praying to someone that I hope was there. I wasn't raised religious. I didn't know anything. And I thought, this is my last ditch effort. I'm going to give this a shot. And so it was in that moment of just, this is it. I'm either doing this or I'm killing myself. And that's when my life changed. It was when I literally got on my knees and said, God, if you're there, I need help. That's what I did in my darkest moment.
I was going to say I'm the one guy in the room that hasn't really suffered from addiction, but I have been hopeless. And in the last couple of years, I've had some struggles in just my own personal life and just being vulnerable with myself more than anything. You know, I'm very critical of my own self and who I am. And I'll be honest, I turn to you guys because I look at what you guys have done in your lives and the success that you've had. And I think oftentimes we don't want that praise or we don't necessarily believe that, but I look at you guys as very, very successful people. And when I'm hopeless, all I have to do is walk into work and come and talk to you guys and say, hey, I need some help. Because it reminds me, because I've watched what you guys have gone through or have heard what you guys have gone through, and then it makes me realize, you know what, I can get through my stuff a whole lot easier than what they did. But your guys' advice alone is so incredible. And then again, you know, going to the spiritual side of it, I try and always say my prayers. I shouldn't be here on this earth, you know. I should have died of an aneurysm. And every day I try and recognize something and tell my Heavenly Father that I'm grateful to be alive today. Help me to do something today to affect somebody in a positive way, because I'm here. I'm still here, you know.
I honestly think that the reason that I was spared, if you will, or had to go through those trials wasn't necessarily for me. It was to help other people, right? To not screw up my kids, to help my kids, you know, navigate this crazy world we're living in now, but also to help other people so they don't have to go through what we did. I mean, it is a crazy job that we get paid to help people. And I got enough love to give. You know what I mean? Like everybody says, well, you know, why do you say love so much? Because legit, I love you guys, right? If you've gone through what I've gone through, or even a fraction, you know, bring it in. Give me a hug, bro. Let's figure this out. You know, but yeah, it's the classic. We'll love you till you can love yourself. And I think, you know, when I was here, it was huge to have Mark and Jeff and Todd, because here's some strangers that legitimately could see in me what I couldn't see in myself. Right, your family always saw it, right? Always knew the potential, right? But it's almost like being a coach of a 13-year-old, right? You tell your kid what they need to do, they don't hear you. You tell somebody else to tell them, all of a sudden, like, oh, that totally makes sense. Sometimes I need to hear it from a third party, like, this is your potential, bro. Like, this is what you need to do to get where you want to go. I mean, it's
beautifully said. Corey, Christian?
I'm just pondering your question, Corey. And
Do you need me to say it again? I know you're old.
no, I got the question. Because there's a little bit of a pattern here, and it's back to love and connection. And I remember, because my mind went to two places real fast. One was out in the desert at a low point with a embarrassingly poor way of attempting to take my life. I remember going out there thinking, this praying thing's not working, God, so we're going to have a face-to-face. I'll be right there. Well, that didn't work out. But the last time, the lowest point, I was down at the block behind a dumpster that was enclosed. You know how the business have enclosures around the dumpster, with a crack pipe in my hand and no crack, and screamed to the heavens somewhere around 2 a.m, where are you, God? And as I heard others, I thought, I'm not sure what the purpose of your question was. I hope you'll elaborate. But for me, my mind went to, when we get to our lowest points, at least I and a couple others here, God was one of the first places that we were reaching out to. What the heck, God? And it could be substituted for, Todd, love was what we were looking for, really, wasn't it?
Totally. Absolutely.
Actually, that I was hoping that was the way it was going to go, because if it didn't, I didn't know what I was going to say. Because for me, same. Like when I distinctly remember when everything hit the fan and I knew, things were falling apart, and like Mark was just saying, I hit my knees. Like it was, and I didn't have like a specific, okay, help me, I'm in trouble, blah, blah, blah. It was, I needed comfort. I needed love. And at the time I was pretty far from that, but it was interesting to me, and then to hear you guys too, is it wasn't religion. I think all of that influenced us because
Right.
we were religious. We had that background, but I was not really worthy of going to that religion at the time in my mind, right? I had kind of shamed myself and everything else, but I knew I could still pray. I knew I could still ask for help. And I knew even there was a part of me that I didn't think I deserved love. There was a part that thought, okay, I need something. And yeah, it's interesting to hear everyone. That was a gamble. I'm glad it paid off. But it is, I think, and that's spirituality. That is it. I mean, doesn't have to be praying, doesn't have to be, it's all these things, and it fits for you. I mean, for you it was this situation, for you it was this situation, but really once you boil it all down, it is the same. I took your words.
That's
sorry.
almost like a mic drop, almost, right? It's almost like if we say anything else, we've ruined this thing. No.
Oh, here
But
we go.
Christian will say
ruin
something.
it.
I don't want to I don't want to detract from that.
There we go.
And I should have said this experience later or earlier. Years ago, I'm early in recovery, briefly out of treatment, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do about religion. And I come from this really religious family, and I go to my dad, who's my hero, and meet with him privately. And what the intent was, this is what it looked like. Dad, I don't think I'm going to go back to the church. And I'm prepared for him to go, are you out of your mind, dude? And verbally accost me, with his kind of love. And instead, I got something along the lines of, son, I don't care if you ever step foot in a church building again, which caught me by surprise. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it was dead serious, no sarcasm. And then he followed it up by saying, what I do care is that you have a relationship with Christ. And I won't ever forgive that, because that gave me freedom to, you're serious, Dad? I don't have to go to church? And that's when I started to figure out the difference between religion and spirituality. And since then, I've obviously chosen to incorporate those two things. But I loved a wise dad who said those words of, I don't care if you go to a building ever again. What I do hope and care is that you have a relationship with what he knew was the God of my understanding, Jesus Christ. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, and what Mark was saying with me is, I go to the mountains, no cell phones, no distractions, just family and just peace. And I think a lot of times when I was going through my darkest moments, I remember sitting in a hospital bed after an ambulance ride after a seizure, tears rolling out of my eyes, just asking for help, right? Because clearly nobody else could help me, right? And there's something not right with me, for sure. But when I'm on a mountain, it's almost like I'm closer to, my dad that passed away, grandparents. It's more like a spirituality, which I don't think it's, like when you say it doesn't have to happen in a building. I honestly have my most spiritual moments when I'm alone or with family away on a mountain, right? And I had to find my own spirituality, and I went to the churches, tried to find it, and then until I got clear-headed enough to really start finding my own testimony, if you will, right? That's when things got good. And yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm not even close to perfect, nor will I ever be, but I don't need to be, right? I got my relationship with my higher power, and it is what it is, and I've been through hard stuff, and things are good, and it's like, being present in the moment. I think you can really start to understand spirituality, right? A lot of times with the chaos of the world, we aren't present, right? And another thing that with spirituality is giving it away, like Todd taught me all those years ago, is, give it away. Give it away. And when I'm doing service, that's when I feel the best, right? Spiritual.
It begs a good question.
Beautifully said, by the way, Dick. Thanks.
I'll start and then go around Corey, Mark, and Decker. You already said. I'll follow up with you, and then Todd finish it off. Where do we find our spirituality? Decker, on the mountaintop. I notice on the mountaintop, sometimes alone, but you mentioned with family and connection, and I find my spirituality also in the mountains, fishing, typically with family, but I also find it looking in the eyes of some grandkids who have no judgment. They just love their gramps. They just love him. And that's where the heavens can say, I know who you are, Christian. I know the struggles you go through, and you matter to me. Corey?
I was thinking there's three actually. One, mountains. When I need to reconnect and I'm just stressed and whatever is going on, I just go into the mountains on a trail run, and with no miles in mind, just go. And to pair that, which is the other one, is with music. And I don't specifically choose music. It's kind of weird. Even some of my family teases me about this, but I'll just put something on shuffle or whatever and just kind of be like, hey, what do I need to hear? And it blows me away. And it's not always the best music. It's just all of a sudden I'll hear some lyrics of something, and I'm like, holy crap, like that. I hate when that works that well. And sometimes I'm telling you, it's not always the best music, but I'll hear something. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. But the other one is with my kids, and it's funny that is something because, and it's not like I just hang out with them and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm transcendent, to the heavens. But I mean, whether it's just hanging out with them or boating with them or being with them, I kind of step back and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, it's fun, and not just my kids, my family. I have my wife, my 2 kids, and my family. So we have this little kind of pod of 4, and we're pretty crazy. We've got a lot going on in our lives. But when there's times where we're just kind of hanging out, like boating or anything, it's pretty cool. Like, I kind of just take a step back and be like, this is what it's about. And that's when I feel connected, and I'm not like, don't get these like answers of this is what you're supposed to do, but I do feel comfort, and that's what I feel is kind of my spirituality and God, that's him speaking to me. When I pray and ask for things, it's not like I get this, yes, do this, turn left, turn right, When I was a kid, I used to like joke about that, like, okay, if he knows that I'm walking down the street, I'm going to go left, I'm going right. Like, that was my brain. That's exactly how I did things. Yeah. And so when I would ask,
I can see that.
I'm like, I'm going to trick him. And so I didn't like that, right? I didn't like the planned out, everything was this way. And as I have matured and learned, that's not it. We get to choose. And when I ask for things, I don't get the answer of, yes, do this. It's more of a comfort of, well, do what you need to do and I'll be there, which sometimes sucks, but it's the way that it works.
My spirituality, it comes from my family also. That's probably my cliche answer, from my grandkids. That's where a lot of purpose is set in my life. But I'll be honest, this is spiritual to me, sitting here with you guys, coming to work, being able to work with people who, as we can hear from this conversation, how important families are in this part of the world, how important spirituality is in this world, to be able to come and serve people, to be able to
help them repair those relationships that are so vitally important for us in our own spirituality is spiritual to me. And I value that. I value that every single day. I really do. And then lastly, just when I get on my knees and pray, that's very spiritual for me. That's a good moment for me.
Love it. Beautifully said. Anything you want to add to what you said, Deck? Yeah. So, great question, Christian. I mean, without fail, it's always when I see my grandchildren, because they remind me of who I am and what I have forgotten. And, you know, even my own children, you know, they say if your children want to hang out with you when they're older, that is true success. And I'm grateful my kids at this point still want to hang out with Dad. And I really do. That's where I feel spiritual and the connection with God, like Corey was mentioning. But if I'm getting more personal, I like to do a lot of really difficult things. I was told once that if you do something really difficult, that like for instance, if you did something for like 6 hours that is just the most brutal thing and difficult thing, but it's, you know, it's a good thing, it's worth like a year's worth of therapy. And so I love pushing myself and signing up for some crazy stuff and pushing myself to the limits. And the gifts that I've gained from doing stuff like that, and many of you have done similar things in here in this room, that's where I find it. That's where I find answers to my problems. That's where I find that it's a reminder that I am good enough. And I may not know it in the moment. There was times where I was doing something really difficult just recently, and I was wondering, why did I do this? But it was a few days later where I felt this overwhelming rush of gratitude and connection and love. And that's when I was like, man, that's why I did it. And so I don't, hopefully that makes sense. I apologize if that doesn't make sense.
It makes 100% sense, because I know what you're talking about, and I've done similar things, and
I'll tell you, that's where it's at for me. And and I signed up again, and my wife was like, no, I don't want you to, because you look like hell when I saw you. And I'm like, no, that's what I need to do.
And in the moment, you always say, if I want to sign up again, don't let me. Yeah. Right? You always tell everybody that.
Yeah, don't let me.
But you do it.
Yeah. So if that makes sense. And then the other thing, if I want to just add one more, is just sitting with you guys. I mean, if you guys remember when we, about an hour ago, Decker had to get out of this office. You got stuff, we got stuff going. And did you notice what happened? We have forgotten about work for a minute. For the last hour, we've been sitting here connecting with each other. It just makes me realize how much I love all of you individually, and how beautiful this is. So thank you guys.
Let me follow up with that real quick, because we all talked about mountains, and I was listening to this podcast the other day. I think it was on Rich Roll podcast or one of them. There was a guy on there, and he's done all this research on connection and how it, again, with depression, addiction, and how it's the opposite. We always say that, right? What's the opposite? Addiction is connection. And he did this comparison of aspen trees, right? Like Quakey aspen. And the resident mountain man, Decker, in here, he can help us out with this, because he's been down to this area.
The man.
But the largest organism, and he said it, see, he's the resident, is down in where? Like, it's by Boulder, right?
Yeah,
it's by somewhere. Anyway, so aspen, like, you see a tree, right? It's not just a tree. It is the whole entire, like, those trees, they're all the same plant. And they're all coming, so it's not just like one tree, like you got this tree over here, that's one tree. But when you see aspens, they are not just one tree. They're part of the entire grove. And that's why if you cut one down, they come back with vengeance, and they start sprouting up more, and they rally around the one that got hurt. And he does this way of like showing that we're like aspens, we're all one big, huge organism. We need connection. And if we don't have it, we die. and same with that. Like they don't have connection. Those trees start falling apart. Like all of them, they'll just kind of go and they'll fade away. And that is us with people. Like, I mean, I think being alone, not having spirituality, not having hope, we die, and it affects everybody. And I agree, man. Like being in here with everybody and having connection, that's why treatment works. People are always like, how does treatment work? And I mean, not to like disparage therapists and everything, but the magic in therapy is getting in a room and connecting and being vulnerable and sharing thoughts, and then walking out of there like, holy crap, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. This was a therapy session.
This was therapy
for all of us.
Yeah, this is therapy.
Right? Yeah.
And it's another example of a Wasatch Way. Here, I know I was being a smarty pants there, but it is. People.
You were being sarcastic?
A little bit.
That's weird.
If we'd had a camera in here or anybody been in here, there's a lot of spirits, a lot of love in this room the last hour, and it's fun to sit here and watch. Particularly watching Decker today, it's been fun. You are high on the mountain right now, buddy.
Yeah,
that's because he's going on the mountain this weekend.
Yeah, he's leaving.
He's already.
He's leaving right now.
He's already got it pre-set up, and he's already there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we could do this all day, but we do need to wrap it up. I want to thank you guys for taking some time. Again, we're joined with Christian Smith, Corey Markisich, Mark Richards, and Ryan Decker. They are the core of this place, and I'm grateful to call them friends and to be able to work with them. Truly, the Wasatch Way is different. We're definitely not perfect here, but man, like Decker said, you feel love and hope when you get here, and that is the key. Mark, maybe let me ask you just to wrap this up. If people want to reach out and get into treatment, or if they have a loved one who needs help, what's the best way for them to do that?
So there's numerous avenues. We obviously have a website, wasatchrecovery.com. Our contact information is on there, but we always like to leave our main number here, and it's 801-901-0024, and you can be expecting to talk to Decker, Christian, or myself if you call that number. And you're always welcome to call me direct on my mobile at 801-898-7778. And feel free to call anytime. If we can't accommodate somebody, we will definitely help them find the right place also.
Love it. Love it. So, yeah, there you go, folks. Please reach out. If you have a loved one right now who's struggling, I promise you, if you share this episode with them to break the ice, to even talk to them, I don't know how this episode wouldn't soften their heart on some level. I don't know how it wouldn't. So share this episode. Get it out to as many people as you can. We love you guys. We love people. We want to help. Like Mark said, if we're not the right fit or whatever, we will find a place. That's what I love about this is we want the best care for your loved one. So hope you guys know that. Thank you for tuning in. Again, guys, thanks for your time today. This is beautiful. I mean, what a way to start off a weekend coming up. Wow. Thank you, guys.
Love it.
Corey, man, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
You're a busy man, so thank you.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Have a great time, and we'll talk to you soon.